So my name's Natalie, and I host the Inside Our Universe radio show with my friend Carolyn, who cannot be here today because of a class, but she's a music industry major at SUNY Fredonia, and I'm an audio radio major with a minor in music industry here at Fredonia. And I'm a singer-songwriter, and so yeah, that's a little bit about me. So can you introduce yourself to our listeners? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Erika Nissen. I'm a university student and also Toronto-based graphic designer, mainly in the music industry.
That's awesome. Tell us a little about the importance of graphic design in the music industry. Why is it important for bands and artists to work with graphic designers?
I think that graphic design in the music industry is super important, especially just with the aspect of branding. I think it's super important for bands and just artists in general to have a cohesive branding, and I think that a graphic designer can really help with that.
So all artists gain inspiration from different things. Who do you get inspiration from, or what do you get inspiration from to continue designing for artists?
I feel like a lot of my inspiration comes from pretty random places. I'll often find myself just like scrolling on like Pinterest and stuff. But especially like older album covers or like tour posters. I really love looking at tour posters from like the 80s and 90s. And also, just to name a couple really cool graphic designers, Kel Lauren and Julia Fletcher are two of my like main inspirations in this scene.
Yeah, I've definitely checked out Julia Fletcher's work. I really like her for sure.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Who are some of your favorite artists to work with and why?
Ooh.
Or anybody who you have already worked with who has been somebody that you've really enjoyed?
I really enjoyed working with a band called Flight Club because they're one of my favorite bands and one of the first bands that I really got into when I found kind of like the pop punk scene. And it was just a really cool experience because I had made like just mock like merch designs, like a shirt design, and then they ended up wanting to buy it and use it, and now it's a shirt that like I wear all the time, and it's just really cool to have like physical merch for like one of my favorite bands.
Yeah. I think we're actually playing Flight Club on this episode, so you'll get to hear a little bit of them later.
I love that.
So I know that you're a part of the Legends for Tomorrow magazine team. Can you talk a little bit about being part of that team and how being part of a magazine has helped you make connections in the music industry?
Yeah, so Legends of Tomorrow was one of the first projects I kind of worked on because the owner of the magazine, Mads, was one of the first friends that I kind of made in this like music scene. And she ended up first commissioning me to make like a sticker and a new logo for them. And then they ended up wanting to hire me to do all of the graphic design for their first print issue, which was like insane because again, it was one of the first projects that I had, and like designing an entire magazine is like quite a feat, and it was huge. So like everything like front to back, like I worked with some incredible photographers that work for the magazine, so I was using their pictures and then also all of their writers, so I was just taking the pictures and the art and the articles, and then I was making all of the art for it. And it was also really awesome because my like number one favorite band right now, Young Culture, was the cover band.
That's awesome. I also write for the Punks, which is my co-host's publication, and I love it. I've gotten to meet so many people, and I think it's a great way to network in the music industry for sure. If someone's looking to break into the industry, would you recommend joining a magazine?
I think so, yeah. I think that especially kind of the more like up and coming publications, like they're always looking for people to be on their team. Whether it's just like contributors, like you said, like writing for them or anything. And I think a lot of them will also kind of give you an opportunity to show your talents in different ways, because like when I was working for Legends, I also like wrote a couple articles for them as well, which I had never done before in that like scene. So I think it's definitely a super great way to kind of make your entrance into the industry and like try out some different things.
Yeah, it was definitely a first step that I took when I got to college. a good way to get involved and like just start to meet people. Has graphic design and other content creation become more important because of the pandemic, do you think?
I think it's definitely become more important. So basically what happened was I ended up finding like all these new favorite bands and new music at the very beginning of the pandemic because I saw Young Culture right before things closed down. And then I like dove headfirst into like pop punk and that whole scene. And that's actually when I first started thinking I could take graphic design seriously. And that was also the first time that I like made any type of merch designs, was just like mock designs for Young Culture last summer. And I was like, maybe I could do this for real. Like, I think just kind of finding that like community on like Twitter and stuff like over the year, like the past year, has been really important to me during the pandemic. And it's definitely like, aside from school, like that's all I've been kind of focused on.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's also like a lot of merch and stuff is how bands are making their income right now since shows are not happening. So I feel like graphic design is definitely plays a huge role in that. Obviously, designing the merch and making the money off of that has been a really big part of kind of survival through the pandemic, I guess. Um, can you talk about your design process and how you typically go about like creating something specific to a client?
Yeah, so I think my design process usually when a client approaches me is obviously first I want to like have a conversation with them about whatever it is, first of all, that it's for. So whether it's like, most of the time I do work with artists, so I'll like be asking them like if it's for a specific song like that hasn't come out yet, like, oh, can you give me like the overall like vibe of the song, like if they've shot a music video, like what's the color scheme of the music video, that kind of stuff. Or I've also done art for like podcasts and stuff like that. So I think the main part is kind of talking to them about what it actually is and why they're passionate about it and just who they are.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask them if they have any kind of like inspiration, like if they have any art that they like, or if they have any like kind of general vibe. Because I do, as much as I enjoy having creative freedom, I think it's also very hard when you're working for a client. I think you definitely need some direction. And then I'll go to like Pinterest, make like a mood board, send that to them, just kind of like give them all the
I
information.
think that's a
And
cool
then,
idea for sure. The
yeah, and
Pinterest
then,
is helpful. I love Pinterest.
oh, it definitely is. Like, I think the, like, it can be utilized in so many different ways. Like,
Yeah.
I think I found a lot of inspiration and also resources there. But yeah, I'll just kind of make a mood board, send it over, and then as long as it's approved, then I'll start working on it.
What softwares do you typically use?
I am a big Photoshop person. I really should get more into Illustrator, but it's just one of those things where sometimes I don't get
It's
it, and
hard.
it
Illustrator is
really
hard.
is. Like, I'm in a media program in university and I've been forced to use Illustrator, and I still just, Photoshop is just, I've been using Photoshop since I was 12 and I'm now 21. So I think it's definitely about finding what you're comfortable with. And I think that a lot of graphic designers tend to stick to mainly one program unless they need to use something else. I think obviously it's good to have a wider skill set, but yeah, Photoshop is what I use for the most part.
What is one of your favorite pieces that you've created and what was it for? And then how did you go about creating it?
Okay, so I think one of my favorite pieces, as we talked about earlier, is the Flight Club shirt because I was actually watching one of the band members, their bassist Alex. I was watching his Twitch stream one night and he was playing NHL and he was looking through like the catalog of all the like pre-made jerseys,
Mhm.
and he came across this really cool like Miami Vice kind of like jersey, and I
Huh.
was like, that's sick, like the color scheme and everything, and we were both like talking about it being like, that's really sick. And then that night I literally pulled an all-nighter because like sometimes you just get the inspiration, you know, like
I
you
get it.
never know when inspiration is going to come to you. I'm sure you understand as
Oh,
a
yeah.
songwriter.
Yeah.
So I literally pulled an all-nighter, made these mock-ups for two different shirts, posted them on Twitter in the morning, And then that day I like got a DM from their lead singer, Charlie, who again is like one of my friends. He's amazing. And he was like, we want one of those designs. And I was like, wow. I think another not individual piece, but something else that I'm really proud of is my Redbubble shop, because I sell stickers that are like mainly again in that pop punk scene, but I love bringing my style into it. So those like bright colors and like making things fun. And yeah, like I have stickers for some of my like favorite bands, and that's just a way that I really love having like physical things
Yeah.
that I can like kind of show off in a way
One of
and be
my
like really
questions
proud
later,
of.
but I was going to ask you if there's a way to purchase anything that you've done or support your work in any other way. I think that's awesome. I've been talking about getting Inside Our Universe merchandise because I just want physical items.
I know.
But I think that's super cool. I'll definitely check that out.
No, yeah, like in the past year, like my laptop went from being covered in like other Redbubble stickers to like mainly being my stickers. Cause I'm like, my whole thing with that, it's not even like a like narcissistic thing, but it's like, if you're an artist, I really think that you should be making art that you love and that you're proud of. Obviously, some client projects, like you're not gonna like be super in love with if it's a direction that you wouldn't necessarily take most of the time, but like I think if you're making stuff that's mainly for fun and for you, like it should be stuff that you love and are proud of. So
yeah, so the Redbubble has given you kind of an opportunity to create your own and what you want it to be versus, you know, taking creative direction from an artist or somebody. I think that's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
So what advice would you give somebody who wants to get started with design?
Ooh, that's hard. Okay, so just a little background on how I got into design is I was 12 years old and I was on a online Taylor Swift fan forum. And they had these things called graphic shops, which it was pretty much like a Taylor Swift like MySpace, but in like 2012. So you could use like graphics on your like either like your footer when you're like posting on the forum or like your profile picture on your profile. So they had these like fan made graphic shops where people would make like graphics for you. Like you would request graphics for free because we were all like 12. Yeah. And then they would make them. And so that's literally how like I was using a pirated version of Photoshop and started doing that. And it's crazy because like me and another girl that I met on there in 2012 are both like going into graphic design as careers. And it's so I feel like I know that that's not helpful advice.
I mean, I got my like passion for music through Ariana Grande fan Twitter. So I get it because that's where it all started for me.
Yeah, I definitely
I would watch Victorious. I would connect with her on Twitter and talk to all the fans. I still have that fan page. I can sign into it on my Twitter. Sometimes I get the notifications. That's how it all started.
Stan Twitter is like the best, but also like the most toxic place ever. It's like so back and forth. But yeah, I know that that's not helpful advice
now, and I'm like, why did I do this? But it definitely sparked the passion for music. Like I would not be here if I was not part of that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I know that's not helpful advice, but I think more than anything, I would say that really like inspiration and stuff like that can really come from anywhere when you're like least expecting it. And I think for the most part, like we're in an age where you can get tutorials, advice, like resources pretty much anywhere for free. So I think definitely if it's something that someone is thinking about and they're going to school for something completely different, like that doesn't matter. You can still find the resources online for free, look up YouTube videos. Even I like always save things on like TikTok where I see like graphic designers do something and I'm like, that's really cool. I'm going to save that and use it one day. So that's what I'd say for the most part, is that all those resources are accessible to you. Go out, find them, make something just like for your favorite band, your favorite song, your favorite TV show, you know, make yourself a lock screen, like something like that. Just kind of get a grasp for the program and just see where it takes you. Because even with me on Redbubble, like I was making money from this before anyone even hired me, you know, because I just went out and Redbubble, it's all like there's no loss there because you just upload your designs and they do everything on the back end. Like it was kind of perfect for me and everything just worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you had to share one piece of advice, a quote or something that somebody else has told you in the industry, what would it be?
Oh, that's so hard. I can't like think of anything off the top of my head really. Um, I think for the most part, the biggest advice that I've kind of taken watching other designers or other artists is that like again, just do what you love, and if you are passionate about your art, then it will take you somewhere. And I think that like nobody else is going to tell you, or if they do tell you this, it doesn't matter that like your art, you're making bad art, like anything like that, it's not good enough. Like none of that matters because art is literally so subjective. Like someone out there will love it, will want it like on their walls. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think that that's the most important part. Just as long as you're passionate about it, then that's really all that matters.
Yeah. So how can our listeners connect with you? What's your Instagram, your Twitter? How can we find your Redbubble shop?
Yeah, so I am underscore Erika Nissen, my full name on Instagram. That's my design Instagram. On Twitter, I'm at Lack of Home. It's a Bearings lyric. And I think my Redbubble is just my full name. I'm pretty sure. But if you also look up like Young Culture or something, like you'll find my
Yeah.
stickers.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much. It was super nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.